You're probably thinking, this has to be a cash grab, right? Another franchise trying to make a movie set in the same universe, but without the main character that everyone actually likes. Well, I just watched Ballerina, and I'm gonna tell you whether it's just another rubbish cash grab film, or if it's actually a good movie. Could it be better than some of the John Wick movies? In 2014, we got John Wick, the story of an ex-hitman avenging his dead wife and murdered dog. Then in 2017, they released John Wick 2, the continued story following Wick as he reluctantly gets pulled back into the hitman underworld. 2 more John Wick movies later, and it's now 2025, and we have from the World of John Wick, Ballerina. The movie takes place during the events of John Wick 3 and stars Ana De Armas as Eve Macarro, who's beginning her own training as an assassin with the Ruska Roma. The story of Eve has some parallels with John Wick. She seeks vengeance for the death of her father at the hands of a mysterious cult-like group. I have to be honest, guys, I thought this movie might be okay. I thought the trailers looked decent. I was interested to see Ana De Armas in a leading action role, but I really did not have high hopes for this. There were some rumors behind the scenes of reshoots for Ballerina, with John Wick director Chad Stahelski apparently taking over from Len Wiseman for these, but recently Len Wiseman himself, the director of Ballerina, has come out in interviews and stated that rather than being reshoots, they were actually additional action sequences that were added after shooting had been completed, just extra stuff that they were filming, and that Chad had directed these as Wiseman himself had actually had a health scare that led him to be hospitalized. So maybe things weren't as tumultuous behind the scenes as people maybe thought that they were. So now let's really get into this film. The biggest thing John Wick fans might be worried about is how they handle his character in this movie, because he does make an appearance. And I have to say, they did it really, really well. There was a moment here where I was like, is that it? Is that all that John Wick is gonna do in this movie? Are you serious? But he turns up later on, and in my opinion, you get the perfect amount of epic, just the right dose of Wick where it doesn't feel cheap, but it also doesn't overshadow the rest of the film. Ana De Armas, she fits this role really well. She truly holds her own as a leading lady, and you can tell that she's trained hard for this, and I think it was really impressive. All of her action scenes, to me, they felt really believable within the John Wick universe. And that was a concern that I did have going into this movie, whether she would actually work as an action hero. But kudos to her and the filmmakers, because she is great in this role. And hot take, but I would go so far as to say that I think some of the action scenes, some of the fight scenes here are genuinely better than some of the ones in the actual John Wick movies. In Ballerina, we have some more gore, which I actually felt was missing a fair bit from the original franchise, mostly in number 3 and 4, and a lot of the action scenes actually feel a bit more grounded and realistic to me here. Again, something more similar to the first 2 John Wick films, because yeah, in my opinion, 3 and 4, they just get a little bit too silly for my taste. There's a scene here in Ballerina with flamethrowers. It was freaking certified epic, and there are some shots of Ana De Armas here that just look so good. This is some great cinematography. You're looking into her eyes, the lighting looks great, the frame looks great. That part of the movie was so good. There's parts of this that feel as if they have a little bit of Hot Fuzz or At World's End kind of vibes to it, with the action scenes happening in a creepy small town, which I really liked. Look, I was a bit sleepy for the start of this movie, but I do think that there are some underdeveloped aspects of the plot, and there are definitely a lot of underdeveloped characters here. But that being said, the core revenge revenge story with Ana De Armas as Eve is solid. I think some of the emotional moments could have perhaps been written or directed to hit home a little bit more, but that's a problem that I have with most of the John Wick franchise, so Ballerina does this reasonably well considering that context. Back on Ana De Armas, and going into minor spoilers now, you've been warned. Overall for me, I think the way that they write Eve here as a character is truly an example of a well-written female lead. She's strong, she has a compelling backstory, the writing itself doesn't feel pandering or virtue signaling, she isn't over-sexualized either. Instead, it actually feels like the writers cared about the character and the story first and foremost. That is the best way to actually make those more representative films that people have been calling out for. It's actually done well here. And recently in Hollywood, we have had some hits and some misses. Some not so good, like Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, or Rey Skywalker. You just hate to say that last name. It just makes me think of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and that was an absolute disaster. And some have been pretty good, like Black Widow, Nebula, and also recently Furiosa. Eve Macarro confidently sits as one of the best female characters and female leads that I've personally seen for a while, and I think that's a really great thing. Towards the end of the movie, you have Eve come up in battle against John Wick, and I think a lot of people would be concerned, given the recent track record in the film industry, that the movie would maybe try and make a point of having Eve defeat John Wick. But instead, that's not what happens. They have a compelling battle where we see the strength of both characters. Wick ultimately wins, which is in line with his character, but the audience comes away with a lot of respect for Eve, and in the final conclusion of the film, she proves herself as a truly admirable character. So overall guys, I had fun with this. I would watch it again, and I think it is a lot better than some of the other rubbish that we've had served up to us in cinemas this year. I do think that I can confidently say, if you love John Wick, you will love this movie. So for me, I'm going to give From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, 3.5 stars out of 5. It was a pretty good time. In terms of whether it's actually better than the original John Wick movies, hot take, but I actually think that this is better than John Wick 3 and John Wick 4. This is how I would rank the franchise. Make sure you let me know down in the comments whether you think I'm right or whether you think that I'm wrong. So one question remains. On an $80 to $90 million budget, can this movie be a financial success, or will it fail at the box office, sadly like Furiosa, another really good movie in my books that unfortunately just didn't bring in that much money? I really do hope that this movie does well, and if you haven't already, I do recommend that you go out and see this one in cinemas. As I said, it is a fun time. But anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please consider dropping a like, maybe subscribing, and you can check out some of my other videos on the screen now.